When Representative Jasmine Crockett took the mic, she didn't just defend public education. She told a story. A real story about what it means to grow up Black, middle class, and ambitious in America, and what it takes to succeed when systems are tilted against you.
Any other members seek recognition? Ms. Crockett?
Thank you so much. I support this common sense amendment by Congressman Frost, and I thank him for offering it. Students in the DC voucher program should be protected from unaccredited schools. We have seen three consistent things about the voucher program since Republicans created it 20 years ago. The program has failed to improve academic achievement as measured by reading and math scores. Republicans continue to weaken the evaluation requirements for the program, and Republicans continue to allow unaccredited schools to participate in the program. The bill would allow schools first participating in the program after enactment of the bill 5 years. Let me repeat that. 5 years to become accredited. That is ridiculously weak when it comes to standards. Accreditation helps ensure that schools provide a high-quality education. The federal government requires colleges and universities to be accredited to receive federal funds. It is even more important that schools participating in federally funded DC voucher programs, which educate students during key developmental years, also be accredited. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a Washington Post investigation of the program titled "Quality Controls Lacking for DC Schools Accepting Federal Vouchers."
Without objections ordered.
Now let me go on and deal with this because y'all want to talk about my education because MAGA loves to talk about my education. Let me tell you something. I got it. I got degrees, okay? I can count them off for you if you want me to, and I am proud of that. But let me tell you, it was no thanks to any Republicans that I got my education. My mom, regardless of what tropes y'all might like to put out there about Black folk or government workers, let me be clear, my mom has been a federal government worker my entire life. She has worked hard for this federal government, regardless of all the nonsense and the terrible things you say about federal government employees, and somehow she managed to raise me. But she still wasn't getting paid her due like most of us that work for the federal government. So what did my mom do? My mom worked multiple jobs. I know that there are tropes out there that act like Black folk are the ones that are always looking out for a handout, but my mom worked multiple jobs to make sure that she could pay to send me to private school. So yes, I went to private school. I went to private school from 7th grade all the way through high school, and then I earned a scholarship to attend college at a private school, the same one that Amy Coney Barrett attended. Yes, we both attended Rhodes College. And then I earned another scholarship so that I could go to law school. Let me tell you something, my academic success, it started in public school. Public school was my foundation. So pre-K through 6, yes, I believe in pre-K, I was in public school. Unfortunately, it was too dangerous for me to go and matriculate through the junior high as well as the high school. In addition to the fact that when it came to the standardized test, I typically was at the top of the standardized test in the state, and so my mom wanted to challenge me to the best of her ability. So that is what she did. She did not look to the federal government and say, I've decided I want to send my child to a private school, so therefore the federal government needs to give me this money, instead of making it an inequitable situation for other students that are literally not in the same situation. Yes, I got accepted to private school because my parents worked with me even when I got out of public school, because they had that luxury of being able to do that, and because both of my parents happened to be college educated and they could help me to do my work. But nevertheless, regardless of my education, because I've done both, I can actually be an advocate, and I understand the difference. And I do believe in the importance of having a sound public education. And maybe my mom would not have had to work so many jobs if there had not been people siphoning money out of our public schools to the extent that she felt like they were not going to be able to challenge me, her gifted child, as I was continuing to grow. So all we're saying is, if you're gonna give out $20-something thousand to $21,000 as it relates to these 1,400 students per child, then give out the same $21,000 for the students that are in public school. That's it. We're looking for equity. Something that y'all don't like. I know it's a bad word, but we're looking for equity. And I know that the gentle lady from North Carolina wants to brag about how many Black and brown children. I will remind her, one of the reasons the president has a problem with the city of DC right now is because it's Black and brown. That's what it is. I mean, it would be odd if like the vast majority of the people that are taking advantage are not Black and brown. That's the city. Okay, I yield.
All right.
What she did in that committee room was not just debate policy. She exposed the deeper truth behind Republican education politics, and she did it with both intellect and personal conviction. Now, let's unpack what's really going on here. The discussion was about the Washington, D.C. school voucher program, a long-running Republican project that gives public money to private schools. On the surface, that might sound like choice for parents. But Crockett zeroed in on what this really is: a decades-long diversion of funds from public schools, the very institutions that serve the overwhelming majority of Black and brown children in D.C. She pointed out that this voucher program has repeatedly failed to improve test scores, and that Republicans keep loosening the standards for which schools even qualify. Imagine that, schools getting federal money without even being accredited. That means no guarantee of qualified teachers, no verified curriculum, no proven record of safety or accountability. In other words, taxpayer money going to schools that wouldn't pass the basic bar required of public ones. And Crockett's argument was simple but devastating. If we're giving $20,000 per child to students in private schools, why aren't we investing that same amount into the public schools that serve everyone? That's not anti-choice, that's a call for equity, a word conservatives love to distort, but one that simply means giving every child a fair shot, not just the ones whose parents already have resources or access. But then she took it somewhere personal, and that's where her power as a communicator shines. Crockett didn't shy away from her own story. She talked about how her mother, a federal government worker, worked multiple jobs just to send her to private school when public schools weren't safe or adequately funded. She made it clear her success came from her mother's sacrifice and her own drive, not from handouts. And she reminded everyone that despite what right-wing pundits say about Black dependency or welfare culture, the reality is that working-class Black families have always worked twice as hard for half as much. Her story exposes a deep hypocrisy. Conservatives love to champion school choice as empowerment for Black and brown families, but their policies have done little to uplift public education in those same communities. When funding is siphoned off to private and religious institutions, public schools, which serve most of America's kids, are left starving for resources. And then those same politicians turn around and criticize those schools for failing. It's a cycle of underinvestment disguised as reform. Then came the line that hit like a thunderclap. One of the reasons the president has a problem with D.C. is because it's Black and brown. That wasn't just a political jab, it was a mirror held up to the truth. Washington, D.C. is a majority Black city. It's also a city that votes overwhelmingly Democratic, that stands for diversity, inclusion, and progressive governance. When Republicans, and especially Donald Trump, attack D.C., when they mock its residents or undermine its autonomy, it's not just about politics, it's about race. It's about resentment toward a city that embodies the very diversity they fear and the political power they can't control. Jasmine Crockett wasn't just defending D.C. schools. She was defending D.C. itself, defending its people, its workers, its teachers, its parents, and its children, people who deserve respect, investment, and autonomy. And she did it with a sharpness and confidence that showed exactly why she's one of the rising stars of the Democratic Party. Her message at its core is this: public education is not charity, it's democracy in action. When we weaken it, when we defund it, when we turn it into a marketplace instead of a public good, we don't just fail students, we fail the nation. So, as Crockett reminded that committee, equity isn't a bad word. It's the cornerstone of a functioning democracy. And if Republicans really cared about children, about safety, about opportunity, about learning, they would stop gutting public education and start investing in the schools that serve the many, not the few. And that's why her words matter, because they weren't just about vouchers or funding. They were about who gets to have opportunity in this country and who's being left behind when politicians play politics with our kids' futures. If you take one thing away from Jasmine Crockett's speech, let it be this: the fight for public education is the fight for equality. It's not just policy, it's justice.